Welcome to the Mop-Up for November 5th, 2022. I'm David Feldman, coming to you from an air shaft overlooking a parking garage somewhere in Manhattan where the temperature is 73 degrees and partly cloudy. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is running against Charlie Crist for re-election, and with the midterms only hours away, DeSantis appears to be coasting to an easy victory, with most recent polling suggesting perhaps even a landslide of maybe 12 points. To seal the deal with voters, DeSantis is now running a commercial that evokes the memory of Paul Harvey. Now, there are a lot of old people in Florida, a lot of old white people in Florida, and they remember Paul Harvey, who died back in 2009. A lot of old white people in Florida still listen to Paul Harvey. They see him, they talk to him, and even have him over for canasta. It's Florida. Paul Harvey was a right-wing radio commentator for ABC News with a very distinctive Midwestern voice. He spoke for the forgotten man. In case you're too young to know who the forgotten man is, the forgotten man is the one everyone in politics still caters to because he's forgotten. The forgotten man is white, racist, beats his wife, his kids, hates the gays, the Jews, the Muslims, Hispanics, and sex. And he's the victim in all this because the times are changing and he's forgotten, even though the times aren't changing. Well, they are changing. We're going backwards, so we can make the forgotten man more comfortable. The forgotten man. We would have Medicare for all and free tuition at all public universities, but the forgotten man won't let us. Paul Harvey, he had a unique style. He told his stories upside down. You know, Rachel Maddow has pinched that storytelling style from him. He would start the story with the least important information and then build to the important stuff, kind of like Republicans. Focus on the least important stuff, and if there's time, we'll get around to COVID. So Paul Harvey's style basically went like this. There was a young man in the prime of his life, struck down with polio, unable to walk, told he was going to be a cripple. But that man, who couldn't walk, got millions marching today when he declared war against Japan after they attacked Pearl Harbor. Personally, I'd prefer, if you just get to the big headline, like we're World War II, but it's a clever storytelling device. Instead of starting with the Twin Towers coming down on 9/11, you start with the guy who made the box cutters that were used to hijack the planes. Anyway, huge Republican. Huge Republican. He was on ABC radio for decades. No leftist commentators on ABC radio. But there was Paul Harvey, best friends with J. Edgar Hoover, using his radio platform to complain about the war protesters. He would go after non-existent welfare cheats. He'd bemoan the paucity of morals in America, and he would preach family values. That bullshit. No equal time on ABC News for someone on the left, though. When he died, his job was given to Mike Huckabee, so you pretty much get the idea of who Paul Harvey was and what is and isn't allowed on commercial radio. Ron DeSantis, this is the new Ron DeSantis commercial using a Paul Harvey sound-alike. This commercial is historic in both its mendacity and effectiveness. Using nothing more than a series of black and white photographs, soft piano in the background, and a Paul Harvey impersonator, this commercial says God has chosen Ron DeSantis because God needs a fighter.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter.
God needs a protector, so he made a fighter. God can make the heaven and the earth, can smite someone with the flick of a thunderbolt, but he needs a fighter to protect him. And that fighter is Ron DeSantis. Not sure Florida needs a fighter. I'm pretty sure they just need a governor. Apparently God needs a defender. I get it. DeSantis is a fighter. God needs a fighter because God's getting old. God is, 4 billion years old? As are most of the voters in Florida.
God said, I need somebody who will take the arrows, stand firm in the wake of unrelenting attacks, look a mother in the eyes and tell her that her child will be in school.
Her child will be in school. Unless, of course, it's a transgender child who doesn't want to get bullied by the teachers, who will be denied puberty blockers and tormented until that child's only choice is suicide. God needs a protector, and that protector is Ron DeSantis. He's a fighter who will make sure your child is in school, unvaccinated, unmasked, and being brainwashed into believing that white Europeans didn't steal land from the Native Americans. And slavery, well, that was a good-intentioned opportunity for Africans to take a working vacation in America.
She can keep her job, go to church, eat dinner with friends.
She can go to church and eat dinner with friends. She can go to church, not a temple, not a mosque, just a church.
She can keep her job, go to church, eat dinner with friends, and hold the hand of an aging parent taking their breath for the last time.
An aging parent taking their breath for the last time because God's fighter, Ron DeSantis, underreported COVID cases in nursing homes and fired state workers who try to expose the real numbers.
So God made a fighter.
And the commercial ends with the Paul Harvey sound-alike talking about God needing a fighter who's also a family man, and that family man has a daughter.
She wants to spend her life doing what Dad does. So God made a fighter.
DeSantis' daughter wants to do what her father does. Unless, of course, he impregnates her, in which case she will have to keep the baby. No abortion for daddy's girl, meaning she'll have to stay home. She can't be a fighter. She has to raise the baby. She won't be able to be the governor. She has to raise the baby. Like I said, this commercial is simultaneously horrible and fantastic. Look, Ron DeSantis can't run on the issues or his record. It's abysmal. He has to say God chose him. It's cynical, manipulative, it's evil, and most importantly, it's anti-American. The First Amendment's Establishment Clause specifically mandates that there is no official religion here. When you have a candidate for higher office like Ron DeSantis talking about church, but not mosques or synagogues, or just talking about God in general, claiming God anointed you, you are violating the Establishment Clause. You are explicitly saying, America is for Christians and only Christians. You are suggesting that you are God's chosen one, a modern-day Joshua. It implies you can do no wrong because God anointed you. God is on your side. That's what Ron DeSantis is saying. He's saying, God is on my side. Well, if God is on your side, Ron DeSantis, then explain Hurricane Ian and all those COVID deaths. This commercial is targeted for believers in God, a Christian God, a very specific type of Christian God. And it suggests, pretty much says, that Ron DeSantis's policies as governor, or God forbid, president, his policies will be targeted specifically for Christians so long as they believe in the right Jesus. Now, I'm not certain this is the best way to win elections. Pretty sure not everyone is Christian, and I'm positive not every Christian is stupid. In fact, very few Christians are. It's just that the only Christians we ever hear from are the stupid ones, like Mike Huckabee or Ron DeSantis or Paul Harvey. This commercial doesn't address any of the substantive issues facing the people of Florida. It is one of the most evil political commercials I've ever seen, right up there with the Willie Horton commercial back in 1988, George Herbert Walker Bush's Willie Horton commercial. But it is a great commercial. This Ron DeSantis commercial is great. And I was thinking, where have I heard it before? I know this commercial. Where have I heard it before? I know it's someone imitating Paul Harvey, but where have I heard it before? It's way too good. Someone stole it. Ron DeSantis stole the commercial. I remembered this was a Super Bowl commercial for Dodge Ram in 2013. Almost word for word, this was a Super Bowl commercial for Dodge Ram in 2013. They used in that commercial the actual voice of Paul Harvey from a commentary he had done back in the 1970s.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
Okay, so he needed he needed a fighter.
God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school boards.
Right, so he needed a fighter.
God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say maybe next year.
So he needed a fighter, right?
It had to be somebody who'd plow deep and straight and not cut corners. Somebody to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake and disc and plow and plant and tie the fleece and strain the milk.
I get it. He needed a fighter.
Who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. Right. So Ron DeSantis' daughter wants to be a fighter, just like her dad, and the son wants to be a fighter. So God made a farmer.
I'm sorry, he made a what?
So God made a farmer.
He didn't make a fighter? He didn't make a fighter.
So God made a farmer.
So God made a farmer. Not a fighter. Interesting. Well, farmer, fighter, same thing. Right? Fighters get cauliflower ears and farmers grow cauliflower. It's the same thing, sort of. So Ron DeSantis stole a Dodge Ram commercial that was based on a Paul Harvey commentary. It was a Dodge Ram commercial based on commentary by Paul Harvey back in the 70s entitled God Made a Farmer. And Ron DeSantis got a Paul Harvey impersonator and changed it to God Made a Fighter, because there are no farmers in Florida anymore. It's all big ag in Florida. Now, there are migrants who pick the oranges and the tomatoes when they're not being flown to Martha's Vineyard for a cheap political stunt, but there are no farmers in Florida. What we do have left are fighters. Not problem solvers, fighters. People who just fight with one another. Instead of picking crops, they pick fights. We have a governor who is fighting the LGBTQ, scientists, doctors, people of color. Ron DeSantis is a fighter, a bully who hurts people, who delights in hurting people. People died from COVID because of him. Your grandparents died from COVID because of Ron DeSantis. Students commit suicide because of Ron DeSantis. And black people get locked up on trumped-up charges of voter fraud because of Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is a fighter. He's fighting anyone who isn't a white, Christian nationalist, heterosexual, ignorant voter. It is the complete opposite of everything Jesus wanted, which is why DeSantis needs to spend millions to produce a commercial that tricks morons into thinking,
God said, I need somebody who will take the arrows, stand firm in the wake of unrelenting attacks, look a mother in the eyes and tell her that her child will be in school.
It's a great commercial. Cost a fortune. The person who made it will make a fortune and will go on to make future fortunes from other candidates who could be Republican, they could be Democrats. They don't care. People who produce these commercials, they'll do commercials for liberals, racists, or someone like Ron DeSantis, a monster. We are literally selling candidates like trucks. They took an old Dodge Ram commercial and rewrote it to sell Ron DeSantis. This is everything Adlai Stevenson back in 1952 warned that television would end up doing to politics. In 1952, Stevenson was resisting television advertising, warning that if you advertise presidential candidates on television, eventually the ad agencies will start selling them like soap. Well, here we are, Adlai, 2022, and we're selling candidates like trucks. And it's going to get worse, Adlai. It's going to get a lot worse. Because Tuesday's midterms will cost $16.7 billion. $16.7 billion. Why? Why so expensive? Because of commercials like Ron DeSantis's God Made a Fighter. Sheila Krumholtz from Open Secrets told CNBC last week, quote, "No other midterm election has seen as much money at the state and federal levels as the 2022 elections." She goes on to say, "We're seeing record-breaking totals spent on elections up and down the ballot." The midterms are big business. That's why Tuesday's midterms are only about the midterms. Consultants, radio stations, television networks, Google, Facebook, marketing executives, and advertising agencies all earn millions taking a slice from this $16.7 billion horseshit pie by making this.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter.
Elections become more expensive each cycle because getting candidates elected is a business, and all businesses must show growth. If elections don't get more expensive each cycle, then the people suckling off that $16.7 billion teat aren't doing their jobs properly. Tuesday's midterms aren't about winning. They're about inventing new ways to make the 2024 elections even more expensive. Political consultants, people who put these commercials together, they make anywhere between 4% to 6% of the money a campaign spends on advertising. Let me repeat that. Political consultants make anywhere between 4% to 6% of the money a campaign spends on advertising. So it is in the political consultant's best interest for advertising to get increasingly more expensive. And advertising doesn't even work. At best, it moves the needle 1 or 2 points, which makes a difference in close elections. But elections wouldn't be tight if a candidate ran on what really matters to voters, and that is money. Poll after poll shows voters only really care about money. Americans don't have enough, and they will vote for anyone who promises them more. Here's the winning message. How much is in your checking account? What's your credit card balance? Vote for me, and I promise your checking account will be higher and your credit card balance will be lower. If it's not, then don't ever vote for me again. A candidate who runs on making the voter rich, not the consultants, who makes the voter rich, wins every time. But that's not what elections are allowed to be about here in America because there's too much money at stake. So elections are about, and only about, raising and then spending $16.7 billion on crap like this.
She can keep her job, go to church, eat dinner with friends, and hold the hand of an aging parent taking their breath for the last time.
Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are in charge of the House and Senate. Why is that? Nobody likes them. They're less popular than Biden. Getting an endorsement, if you're running for office and you get an endorsement from Pelosi or Schumer, it means nothing. They have zero political capital. What they do have is capital, money. Schumer and Pelosi are, as Howie Klein will tell you, they are Wall Street bagmen. They are Wall Street bagmen. They distribute the cash. They can't get candidates' votes, but they can get them money. And so they're in charge. That's why 2022 will be the most expensive election in history, and so will 2024 and 2026. Marshall McLuhan famously said, "The medium is the message." In other words, television's message is, watch more television. Now, the same way television is only about television, elections are only about elections. The midterms are not about the voter. They're not even about the candidates or their parties. The midterms are about the midterms. That's the genius of Donald Trump. He totally gets it, which is why Trump has made this election and future elections, if we have any, he's made them about the election. That's what the elections are about, the election. Talk to any MAGA Republican, the only issue they're voting on is the election. And reporters covering the midterms love this because they never have to get bogged down covering the pain we are all in. This $16.7 billion boondoggle is a perpetual football game where players, coaches, and owners get richer while fans pony up the money and they can't even afford a ticket, let alone health care or food. This election should be about the climate crisis. It should be about raising the minimum wage, income inequality, affordable housing, free health care, and free college. But instead, it's about red versus blue. Tuesday is the big game. And I will be up all night rooting for the Blues. If the Blues keep the House and Senate, I will celebrate the way I did after the Jets won the Super Bowl. On Tuesday, we will be living vicariously through players, very few of whom even know we exist. Now, there are some candidates who do know we exist. There are some, Bernie, for example, Cori Bush, Ted Lieu. The only way to get money out of politics is to vote for these candidates who will get money into your pockets. We need to get money out of politics and into our pockets. James Carville got Bill Clinton elected by putting a sign on the wall that said, "It's the economy, stupid." That was back in 1992. Clinton got elected, and for the next 8 years, the economy got better while Americans got poorer. Read Howie Klein, and donate to candidates who, when elected, will give you a Warren Buffett-sized return on your investment. Because it's the voter, stupid. It's not the economy, stupid. It's the voter, stupid. And the voter isn't stupid. You know who's stupid? Ron DeSantis and the people who put this together.
She wants to spend her life doing what Dad does. So God made a fighter.
You're listening to The David Feldman Show, you happy, self-actualized hump.